I'd like you to imagine your dream life. See the version of you who has what you want to have, feels how you want to feel, and is who you want to be. I'm Brittany Hoops, your hypnotherapist and manifestation coach, and this is the show where I'll teach you to master the full power of your mind, to guide you on your journey towards destination manifestation.
Take a step back for the ones who can't do that. Hope I separate from my past. Hope I don't just...
Hello there, travelers. Welcome to another episode of Destination Manifestation. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for taking a little pit stop on your journey and getting and refueling yourself with this show. Okay, I'll stop with the analogies. I am excited for today's episode because, well, there's really two reasons. One, the podcast has really been getting some buzz lately. I wish I could take credit for it. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't really know how so many of you all are finding the show, but I love it. The numbers have just been climbing. So I'm very happy to see it. So if you're new here, welcome. Binge all the episodes, catch up with us, join this wild ride towards destination manifestation. I guess I lied. I am going to do a few more analogies. The other reason is I've had several questions come in from listeners of the show just over this past week. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving into some manifestation questions that you all have sent in to me. So if you have questions, I know I say this periodically, but if you have questions about manifestation that you would like featured on the show, heck, if it applies to enough people, I will do a whole episode on it like we're going to do today. Be sure to send those in to me. I really appreciate it. You could go to BrittanyHoops.com/podcast. If you scroll down just a bit on that page, you're going to see a button that says, "Got a question? Ask it on the podcast." Click that, and you can actually record me an audio note that I will include in an upcoming show with your question. Or if you prefer not to go down the audio note route, I guess I should say, just DM me on Instagram, leave a comment on one of my recent Instagram posts. You can find me at brit.hoops in order to do so. That's over on Instagram, okay? So that's actually how we got this question submitted here today. So the question was, I want to manifest something, but I don't yet know the specifics of it. Like, I know I want to shift careers, but I have no idea what I want to do in this new path. Good question, right? Well, dear listener, I must tell you, this comes up a lot. How can you manifest when you aren't even clear on the specifics of what you want to manifest? It's hard to deliberately manifest, right? When you don't even know what it is that you want to be manifesting. You just know that you need a change. So let's dive in today on non-specific manifesting and what to do about it, okay? How you can make progress as you're clarifying what it is exactly that you want. So first of all, I just need to start with this, okay? We have to realize that you are manifesting, whether you are consciously aware of it, whether you consciously know the specifics or not. We're all manifesting 24/7. You can't turn off gravity and you can't turn off manifesting. Actually, speaking of gravity, this is kind of a dated reference, but I just finished that show called The Curse. Have any of you guys watched that? It has Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone in it. And I love Nathan Fielder. He was the guy that did that show Nathan for You back on Comedy Central. I don't know when that was, at least 5-10 years ago. Oh my God. If you are into like dark comedy and humor and awkwardness, that show is like one of the best shows of all time. I love that show. So when I heard that Nathan Fielder came out with a new show, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to watch this. Although it's not even really that new. I think it came out in 2023. But my husband and I watched it, and The Curse, it was such a trippy, thought-provoking, honestly, show. And I don't want to ruin it for you because you literally will not see the ending coming. I don't think anybody could guess the ending. But if you watched it, you'll know why I was thinking of Gravity. And I was thinking about that show and what the heck happened at the end. I just finished watching it, so it's on my mind. But anyways, You can't turn off gravity, at least most of us, at least. And you can't turn off manifesting. You are manifesting 24/7, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's why it's called the law of attraction. It's a universal law. Like attracts like. Now, when we think of manifesting in the sense of like what this podcast is about, right? We're thinking about deliberately manifesting. There wouldn't be a podcast if there wasn't any way to control. I don't know if control is the right word, but guide the direction in which we manifest. That's why we have shows like this, and we have techniques, and we have, that we learn about manifesting, because we like to, as Abraham Hicks says, get our hands in the clay, right? We like to have some say over the direction that we manifest. Otherwise, I doubt there's too many podcasts about just like how to live with gravity, because you just kind of do it. And so if we couldn't direct the manifesting in some way, there'd be no need to learn about it. We want to direct that natural process. We want to have a conscious say in what we bring into our lives, rather than just sort of manifesting by happenstance, like most people do. I'm sure most people in your life who aren't into this stuff like you are, they just manifest by happenstance. And, it's funny when you learn more and more about manifestation, it's not that you think that you're better than other people, because you won't, but it's funny that when you learn about how manifestation works, and then like a friend is telling you how this like big awful thing happened in her life, and like you can start to see, well, like, of course that happened, because you've been thinking this for 8 years, or like, I don't know. It's funny. Even my husband, he isn't super into manifesting, although he's super supportive of it, because he knows, it's my career path. It's what I'm passionate about. And, he knows enough about manifesting now that he'll look at me whenever like something's like blatantly obvious that it was manifested and like somebody doesn't realize it. He'll like look at me and he'll be like, oh, they manifested that. And I'm like, yeah. You start to see the patterns, right? And a lot of people just think that's life happening to them. But if they knew the core tenets of manifestation, they'd realize that they had some say in that, whether they knew it or not. So I bring this up because even if you don't consciously know or haven't yet decided the specifics yet of what you want, you are still manifesting based on where and what you're placing your attention on, right? Thoughts become things. That's the core, easiest. If you had to sum up manifestation into one sentence, thoughts become things is a great one to pick, right? So let's take this listener's example of wanting to switch careers. My guess is that there was some sort of impetus for that desire, right? Something was going on. Maybe your interests have changed. Maybe the career field you were in didn't turn out to be what you thought it was going to be. There could be so many different reasons, right? That you have this desire now to switch out of this career field. In fact, I remember feeling exactly that way when I decided that the career field that I wanted to be in, since I recorded my kindergarten time capsule at the age of 5, so essentially from the age of 5 till about 23 or so, 22 or 23, I thought I wanted to be an actress. It was like my whole life. Like it was my whole identity. I did acting. I think the first show I was ever in, I was 8 years old. And then I just continued some people play sports, other people play instruments. I did acting. Like that's just what I did. And I did it all through elementary and middle school and high school. And even in local theaters as I was growing up professionally, as a teenager, and then went to NYU for theater. Acting was my entire life for a time period there. It was like my full identity. It was how I understood myself. But then once I graduated from school, right, I finally got to the point where it's like, oh, now I get to do this as a career. I did an off-Broadway show. I did some short films. I mean, nothing noteworthy. I didn't like set the world on fire. No Oscars here, but it was enough to sort of get my feet wet professionally. I was auditioning like crazy, which honestly, if you're an actress, that's the real job. I realized it just wasn't what I thought it would be. That was what I came to understand. And I even remember that moment when I realized that I didn't want to be an actress. even though that's all I had ever wanted, and frankly, all I had ever known up until that point. I was getting lunch with a good friend of mine at the time. Her name is Rachel Brosnahan. You might know her as the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She was the main character in that TV show. She's also going to play Lois Lane in the next upcoming Superman movie. I mean, she has really had some major success in Hollywood, and on Broadway. So we went to NYU together, and we were in many of the same acting classes, and the acting classes are like 13 people max, right? So it's like very small, environments. And so I remember shortly after graduation, I just got lunch with her. We were hanging out as friends. She was in a Broadway show that was playing at the time. I was living back in New York. And I remember her sort of, I don't think complaining's too harsh of a word. She wasn't complaining, but she was just kind of, venting a little bit about her kind of schedule and how busy she was. And she was noting that she wasn't looking forward to having to go out after performing in her show and having to go out with the directors and the producers and the donors and all these other important people that had supported the show. And she was going to have to get drinks and socialize and she's really said, all you want to do after a grueling 3-hour show is just go back home and get some sleep. But no, you have to go she was kind of sharing hey, there's this other big part of the job that they don't talk about that's kind of expected of you. And, it's tough, And I remember it just sort of opened my little introvert eyes up to the reality of what it means to be a successful actress. And I remember I just sort of had this moment where it was just wow, she has achieved what I could only hope and dream to achieve. And yet what she's describing is something I do not want. I don't want my life to be filled with that. That's not what I want. And so I'm working this hard and I'm going to try to climb up that ladder and end up someplace I don't even want to be. I just realized how acting was only just one very small piece of that career. And really, the majority of the job consisted of things that I didn't really enjoy all that much. And so essentially, if I had become successful with it like she had, it wouldn't be something I'd actually enjoy all that much. Now, this conversation wasn't the moment, although it is a moment that sticks out to me. It was just kind of one small comment that set me on this completely different career path. But I feel like the story was that, the story that she told me, or that moment that I remember at lunch, was sort of the final nail in the coffin in my mind. It had kind of, everything had snowballed to make me think yeah, I think I'm actually going to switch. I think I actually don't want this. It helped me come to terms with the fact that I may enjoy theater, but that doesn't mean that, the career of it was best suited for me. And that I personally would rather find a job where I enjoyed a larger percentage of what I did each day. And this kind of set me off into this complete and total identity crisis, really, because I only knew myself to be an actress, and who was I without it? I had zero clue of what kind of job I could even remotely want to do, or who I would even remotely want to be if I wasn't acting. I had never allowed myself to consider it. I didn't feel qualified at the time to do anything else. Here I had this, quote unquote, useless theater degree, which I can tell you, if anybody's considering going to college in the arts or has gone to college in the arts, that is a lie. An art degree, no matter what kind of art it is, a Bachelor of Fine Arts will help you no matter what career field you go into. So that is a lie. Definitely explore that if you want to. But for me at the time, my answer to these questions was turning to my favorite self-help authors, turning to self-development resources to just figure this out, redefine myself. And that's what led me to the career path that I have today. Those resources changed my life. And then I thought, ooh, I want to do that. But that's, of course, a different story for a different day. So whatever your reason might be for shifting careers, for contemplating getting out of a serious relationship, or for making any other big change to your life that you're kind of sort of mulling over right now, you might not know where you want to end up, but it ain't here. And that can be a very scary feeling. Now, a lot of people We'll just decide to stay with what feels known, with what feels familiar. I mean, we see this with relationships all the time, right? People will stay in unhappy relationships simply because they don't want to leave until they have something else lined up on the other side, some other prospect, which we know that leads to its own set of trouble, right? They rather be unhappily with someone than being alone. They rather be in an unhappy known situation than to venture out into the unknown where there might be happiness. But the thing is, from a manifestation point of view, it's by taking that leap. It's by deciding, no, I'm no longer going to give my attention and energy to this thing that I know I don't want anymore. Because when you do that, it then frees you up to get clear on what it is that you do want. I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite books. Well, I guess it's not that favorite of a book, but it was a book that really helped me when I was manifesting my, crush, who is now my husband. And we've been together for 15 years now, right? But when I was manifesting him, there was this book by Ariel Ford. I can't remember the name. If you've downloaded my 70 plus manifestation resources, I think I list it in there. But it's a book by Ariel Ford, and it's all about manifesting love. And she says, clear out a drawer in your dresser for your eventual partner's things. Like, create space in your environment to let somebody in. And I feel like, whether or not you clean out a drawer for a future partner is up to you. But I think the concept stands, is really a good concept to live by when it comes to manifestation. You got to clear and make room for the change so that the change can come in. You can't hold on to what isn't working and then just think, oh, well, I'll let go once the new thing's here. It's not how it works. And I know it's so scary to feel like you're free falling through the universe. But when you let go of what doesn't serve you and you're free falling and you have nothing else to replace it with, that's when you now have the freedom to latch onto something else. And so I want to provide you today with a few strategies that can help you do that. Okay? Now, there's a great quote or a great saying that one of my favorite manifestation teachers, Abraham Hicks, who I'm going to quote a lot in this episode, always says, okay? And it goes something like this. If you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And this gets back to my point that I made earlier, okay? Something that caused you to contemplate making this big shift in your life. Something made you think, this isn't the career path for me. Something made you decide, you know what? I don't want to live in this city anymore. I'm going to move. Like, if you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. In fact, it's funny. I just had a session recently with a one-on-one hypnotherapy and coaching client of mine, and she's looking to make a big life change. I mean, we're talking a total overhaul here, which, I love those kind of sessions and clients because that's when you really need this kind of one-on-one work, when you're looking to change everything. And it's been something that she's known she's wanted to do for a very long time. It's been a scary prospect to her, and it feels like there's a lot of logistical things that have to happen and switch in order to make it work, right? She's going to have to go back to school. She's going to have to get that advanced degree, even though she's in her 30s, okay? She's going to have to get a divorce from a partnership that she just knows is no longer right for her, okay? Lots of big changes, right? And so I asked her, I said, okay, just for a moment, paint me that ideal picture. Okay, so let's just for a moment set aside all the doubts, set aside all the logistical concerns, set aside the timing, the costs, the efforts, all those things that have kept you in the same unhappy situation for so long. Let's just put those on pause for a moment. We can always come back and address them one by one, but dream with me here. Okay, what is the ideal scenario here for you? Paint me that picture. In X amount of weeks and months and years from now, I'm not going to assign the timing, of course. The universe is in charge of that piece. But let's imagine what it might be like on the other side of all of this, where you were living the life that you deliberately created. What do you want to create? That was the question, right? A big question, but it was an important question. And she just kind of sat there. And she thought for a moment, And then she got really serious and she looked like she'd seen a ghost, right? And she said, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And of course, that very much concerned her. She had zero clue what she really wanted. She knew what she didn't want. She knew what she was experiencing right now wasn't working, but she didn't know what to replace it with. Now, tell me, how many people are going to jump off a cliff if they can't see where they're safely going to land? Okay? Not many. And yet, I just explained that it's kind of that taking that leap of faith sort of situation you have to put yourself in order to allow the manifestation to come in. And yet our conscious, logical brains don't want to let us do that, right? That doesn't feel safe. So no wonder she hasn't taken any action. She hadn't decided where she'd land. It didn't feel safe for her to metaphorically take the jump yet, right? To make those big changes. And so then we said, okay, let's take a different approach here. I said, well, tell me what it is that you hate about your current job. Tell me why that marriage isn't working. Like, just for a moment, let's get into all the nitty-gritty negative details of why life is so bad right now and why it needs to change. And so as she talked, because she knew this answer, right? This was an easy answer for her. I secretly started to kind of make a list, right? All those negative qualities went on the list. We had at least 10 things in the matter of just a few minutes, right? It was really easy to come up with reasons why things suck so much right now. And of course it was easy. That's what she was in the habit of giving her attention to. That's what she was practicing. That's why she had manifested all of this in the first place, because she was giving her attention to it. That's how manifestation works, right? Thoughts become things. You manifest what you give your predominant attention towards. And so I made this list and I said, okay, let's play a little game. Will you play a little game with me? And she said, yes. Let's take these qualities, these items on this list, these reasons one by one, and let's just simply identify their opposite. Okay? Doesn't mean that that's what you necessarily want, but let's just see what it is. If you don't want misfortune, do you want fortune? If you don't want a long, drawn-out, nasty divorce, do you want an amicable agreement? If you don't want being limited in what you can do you want to be able to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it? You see how I'm just playing around with opposites here? And the beauty is, this serves as fodder. It's a jumping off place. So when we started by looking at these opposites, then the client was able to say like, yeah, I do want that. Ooh, and that reminds me, I want this too. And let's have this and let's do this. And she started to find some clarity. Okay. Sometimes she didn't even want the opposite, but just by knowing that she didn't want it, she was able to more clearly articulate what it is that she did want, that she does want. And I swear, we scrapped that old negative list and we made a new list of what she actually wanted. And we had at least like 17 different things that she actually wanted on that new list. It was awesome. And we both kind of had a good laugh about it, right? Because I told her, I was like, 30 minutes ago, all you could tell me that you wanted was, I don't know, right? And now we have a list of all these things that you want that's like a mile long. And she was pleasantly surprised. This was something that wasn't made aware to her yet. So I like to say this. I don't know is a convenient answer sometimes. What I found for most people that I've coached and I've worked with is that they do know. They just haven't dove in deep enough to articulate it yet. So if you feel like you don't know the specifics of what you want to manifest yet, yes, you do. Just start by identifying what you don't want, and just briefly, and preferably for the very last time, okay? Because we don't want to give any more of your attention and your energy towards the negative here. But just let that, knowing what you don't want, let that be the portal to help you discover what it is that you do want instead. Now, Abraham Hicks says that the contrast of life, meaning the things that make us realize that we don't like something in life, right? The black and white, the good, the bad, the contrast, right? It's there to help us appreciate what we do enjoy and love about life. Flowers wouldn't smell as sweet if trash didn't stink so bad. You know what I mean? It's this contrast that helps launch our desires. You wouldn't have a desire for this new job if the job and career path you were in didn't feel so uncomfortable to you right now, right? There was some contrast that helped you launch the desire to switch careers or decide that you want to, have a baby or, start a family or whatever big manifestation or life change that you might be considering. There was something that was an impetus to that. Just like failure is one of our biggest teachers, the contrast teaches us what we want to. And so here's another practice that you could do after you do the opposites exercise, okay? Do the opposites exercise first. Then I like to play around with this. I'm not going to stay old and stuck in my ways. Type out all this to ChatGPT. Tell ChatGPT to write you a scene of an ideal day in your life where you've switched careers or whatever your manifestation might be, right? Give it the details that you have. And it might be not that much, okay? But also tell it what you don't want. Give it as much info as you have identified right now, especially after you do that opposites exercise. That's going to help. And then let it come up with the rest. Okay, now this doesn't mean that I'm asking you to live your life dictated by ChatGPT. In fact, I do not recommend that. But maybe you're more of an editor than a writer. Meaning that when it spits out this play-by-play of sort of your ideal day in your life, I want you to kind of metaphorically take your red pen, meaning your discernment, and I want you to mark it up. I want you to edit it. See what resonates with you, but most importantly, see what doesn't, because that's going to teach you probably even more about what you do want when you can recognize what it got wrong about your ideal day in your life. And notice why. Get clear about why. I'll tell you, I tried this exercise out myself just a moment ago, just to, test it out. And even though I happen to personally be very clear on the specifics of my current manifestations, I wanted to give this exercise a test drive. So this exercise is especially great if you've already been using ChatGPT for other things in your life. It knows something about your life and your preferences already. It's stored in the memory of your account. That can be extra helpful. Not necessary, but can be helpful. And I tried this exercise. I gave it very little information, okay? I mostly just said, here's what I don't want. And I threw in a few I wants into the mix because you should have those by now after you did the opposites exercise. And it was interesting. I read through kind of what it spit out, and I pretended that I was an editor, right? ChatGPT did the writing. Now I'm doing the editing to what it wrote. And one of the lines that sort of stuck out to me in kind of a silly way is it said something like, your partner brings you a warm cup of tea and you savor it together as the baby coos happily, filling the room with joy. And I was like, X. I don't drink tea. I don't drink tea. Not true. Now, my partner might fill up my emotional support water bottle that I always keep with me, but he would not bring me tea, okay? Now, of course, this is a very silly little example. Like, I'm not manifesting my partner bringing me tea, but that's what it's indicative of reading something and realizing like, nope, that doesn't belong in my dream life, and like immediately recognizing it. You know what I mean? And so that's what we're looking for when we edit what it spit out to us. We want to identify that X, no, wrong sort of feeling. And since you're the editor, what would you tell it instead? I almost imagine ChatGPT being like, okay, you don't drink tea. What do you drink instead? And then I very clearly said, oh, water, So see how I automatically knew what to replace it with? It's not tea, it's water. How does this, whatever you identify as needing to be edited or revised, how does it need to change so that it passes your yes test? We want every sentence that it spits out to you to be like, yes, I want that. Yes, that sounds good. Great. Awesome. Yes, yes, yes. So we want it to pass the yes test, and I want you to continue to revise it and edit it until it does. So give this exercise a go too. Now, here's another thing to consider if you feel like the specifics of your manifestation are hazy right now. I want you to know that the specifics actually don't have to be concrete details. They can take on so many different forms. Now, I will admit, that my own bias comes up here a little bit when it comes to manifesting, okay, and how I teach manifesting. Personally, I am a specific manifester. If you follow human design, I'm a 1-3 projector. I'm a specific manifester. I love to relish in the details. I get a lot of joy out of that, right? They make me happy. So I'm also a hypnotherapist, and I would say hypnotherapy, as well as many other inner mind manifestation techniques, tend to rely a lot on visualization. If you read anything that Neville Goddard has written, he talks about visualization all day long. But he also talks about something else. He says, the feeling is the secret. And the only reason we care about the specifics is because we think that when we see something, when we hear something, when we smell something, when we taste something, when we touch something in our inner minds, that it will evoke a feeling within us that we have that thing. And that's the only specific that truly matters in order to manifest here. Okay? So you don't have to have all the concrete details all ironed out right now. Just get clear on the feeling you want to feel when you have your manifestation or when you've successfully made this big life change. How do you want to feel after you make that career switch? How would you feel in this new career, even if you don't know what the new career is yet? How do you want to feel after you make that oftentimes painful decision to cut off contact with an old friend or a family member? Now, I've been quoting Abraham a lot this episode, but Abraham says you only ever want something because of the feeling that you think you'll have once you manifest it. You only want to switch careers because you think that you'll be happier or more fulfilled or more content or more challenged on a new path. Those feelings are truly the only specifics that you need. I've made this comparison before, but I like to think we're kind of all like bats, right? I live in Austin, Texas. We're known for the bats that live under the bridge downtown, and we are all kind of like bats. We have this honing capability within us. So if the only specific you have about your manifestation is that you think you'll be happier once you have it, bingo, that's enough. That's enough to hone in to that feeling of happiness. How can you create more happiness in your day-to-day? How can you become a vibrational match to that happiness? What jobs would create that feeling within you, would make you happy? Would being a hairstylist make you happy? No. Okay. Well, would being an artist make you happy? Maybe. Getting closer. Well, would staying in your current career field make you happy, but maybe you just do it freelance instead? Could be happy. You know, it's like that game, I don't know if you used to play, of like hot and cold. Like if you play when you're a kid, you know, you're like, you close your eyes and you're like, warmer, warmer, hot, 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 hot. As you get closer to that feeling, you use your honing capabilities to get closer and closer to the match of the feeling that you want to create. And visualization and using all your inner mind senses are just mechanisms that can help you to create that feeling, right? But they themselves are not the thing that manifests. They're only used to help you do the thing that manifests, which is create the feeling, if that makes sense. So, I mean, this is why it's been scientifically proven that you don't have to visualize in order to benefit from something like hypnotherapy. In fact, I actually just read about this really interesting recent study where they took participants that had a condition, or I guess have a condition called aphantasia. I know I've talked about this on the show before. That's when you can't visualize pictures in your inner mind. There are some people that when I say visualize an apple, nothing comes up. That might be you right now, right? That's called having aphantasia, right? And so they took a group that had aphantasia, and then they took a comparison group of folks who could traditionally visualize in their inner minds, and they both underwent fMRI scans while trying to visualize patterns. That was the instruction they were given. And even though those individuals with aphantasia reported having no mental images, they're like, yep, sorry, nothing came up. Their visual cortex in their brains still showed distinctive activity. Now, what's interesting here is that the researchers then were able to go and decode those patterns, revealing that the brain was creating representations of the imagery. It's just that that person who has aphantasia wasn't consciously perceiving it. They didn't know they were perceiving it, yet the brain was still doing it. Isn't that crazy? I mean, us hypnotherapists have known this for a long time. This is why I always tell people who have aphantasia or clients who have aphantasia, just pretend that you can visualize it, because the very same purpose is served to your subconscious mind. Your brain is still operating like everybody else. You just don't recognize that you're doing it. And I love now that we have scientific evidence to back this up. But let's get back to the specifics here, okay? Ultimately, consciously knowing the specifics aren't even necessary. And you're going to be like, what? Well, then how do I move forward in life, right? Because why they aren't necessary is because the more that you become a match to the feeling that you know matches your manifestation, the more the specifics will then line up and become clear to you in your day-to-day physical life. So if you don't know the specifics of your manifestation just yet, I would say it's because you haven't been plugged into the feeling long enough. Like, the feeling is going to be the compass that guides you to what to do next. We want to give your brain that instruction. Hey, I'm looking to make a major health change in my life right now. And I know that once I do so, I'm going to feel really grateful for my body. I'm going to love my body. I'm going to feel grateful for it. So how can I feel grateful for my body right now? And you just spend your time finding ways, reasons, any excuse to feel grateful now. We have to feel the feeling first, and then we manifest the thing. A lot of people think they have to manifest the thing first, then they'll feel the feeling. It's the opposite way. So maybe in this case, maybe it's too hard to feel grateful for your body. You're feeling sick. You're feeling, if you feel like your body betrayed you, maybe it's too hard to feel grateful for your body right now. If that feels too hard, maybe you start with relishing in gratitude in another area of your life, right? We find any way in to matching that feeling. But you want to be the vibration of gratitude that's a match to your manifestation. I've been doing this a lot lately with my latest manifestation that I swear I'm going to share with you so soon. There's a reason behind my madness. I will share. I know that this manifestation exists at the vibration of faith rather than fear. Okay, and I've talked about that quite a bit over the last several episodes. So anytime I feel that old habit of fear creeping in, I say, wrong way. Isn't that from a video game? Is that Toad in Mario Kart? If I had to guess, it was Toad in Mario Kart. Maybe you know. Bonus points to you if you know the reference. And then I go, nope, no, wrong way, fear. And we go back into faith mode. Okay? What would it feel like to be immersed in faith? Now, to me, and I don't know, this is just my subconscious representation of faith, but to me, faith feels like a bunch of pillowy clouds at sunset, like these pink hued clouds that I just sort of sink into, and they hold me, they cradle me. I don't know why, but that's kind of like where I go mentally when I want to just bathe in the feeling and the vibration of faith, right? It just feels right. It feels protected. All is well in the world. Like, that's faith to me. So here's a fun little exercise, okay? If the feeling that matches your manifestation, let's just pretend that it was a theme park land. Like, what would it be? Like Gratitude World. What would be there? What would be the rides you'd go on? How would it be decorated? What would it look like? When you're standing in line for a ride, what would the environment look like? Like, what would be there? Imagine Disney just announced that they are going to open up a Gratitude World and you're going to be immersed in gratitude. What would that be like? Interesting exercise, and there's actually a funny story behind this exercise. It's actually a spoof off an exercise that I used to do back in my market research days, okay? I worked with this really cool company for a while that did a lot of interviewing for brands at the subconscious level. Not in like traditional hypnosis, but they tried to get at the subconscious associations. And that's kind of where my interest and my love for the subconscious mind kind of first took form. And so we would work for these big clients, right? Like Walmart and Pepsi and like big names. And we would ask these super creative, esoteric type questions like, if Walmart was a theme park, what would it be like? And without anyone going into hypnosis, it wasn't needed, it would help activate the subconscious mind. And it would tell us so much more about how a person perceives a brand than if we were just to kind of straight up ask their conscious mind, so what's your experience like at Walmart? You're going to get a bland answer with a bland question. But this creative question, gave us so much more about the associations that exist and which is so important, to marketing. So we want to know the subconscious associations. That's powerful. And I swear it was so interesting those days, those interviews that I would do, because I was a qualitative researcher. That's what I would do all day. I interviewed people all day. Sometimes they became therapy sessions for the respondents that I spoke to. like that was my first boots on the ground training that helped me, become a hypnotherapist. Honestly, people would cry. I mean, these sessions got so intense because we were tapping into the associations that the subconscious mind creates. And there's always a lot of meaning and a lot of emotion there. And that's one of the reasons why marketing's so powerful, right? It taps into parts of you that you aren't even consciously aware of. So anyways, interesting fun fact about that particular exercise in my previous life. We can use the same exercise for manifestation too. So what would happy world be like? What would gratitude world be like? What is it like to be immersed in faith? Because the more that you tune into the frequency of that emotion, the more the specifics line up and become clear to you. You become guided. The universe ensures that you are on the path that matches that feeling. And so it may be guiding you to a specific doctor or a specific medicine or a specific treatment or a protocol or whatever it is, right? You don't have to know the specifics right now. You just know what feels like a match to gratitude for your body. And so when that comes up, you're like, ooh, yes, that's it. You know it when you see it. I remember that's what my mom always told me when it came to like meeting your, eventual partner or husband or whatever it might be. She's like, you'll just know him. You'll know it when you meet it. And so I will tell you, I met a lot of guys that I was like, yeah, don't know it. Next. And then when I met my husband, I was like, ooh, that's what she was talking about. I know it when I see it. I know it when I meet it, when I get to know it, right? Like it wasn't love at first sight necessarily, but like when I got to know him, I was like, yes. Like, when it clicks in, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the specifics will be the thing that clicks into that feeling you want to create. So if you are in the vibration of gratitude for your body, I bet you're treating your body a whole lot better than you used to treat it. So if you want a new career where you feel happy, the universe is going to start lining up opportunities, and you'll recognize that opportunity once it's a match to that feeling. Let's just pretend it's happiness in this case. Once it's a match to happiness, once you click into happiness, ding, 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 that's a match. You feel it. So not knowing the specifics is okay. It just means that you're open to the path of least resistance, meaning the easiest, most direct way that the universe can serve up this manifestation for you that matches that feeling. In fact, I would tell you this. If I had to pick one, I'd rather you not know the specifics than for you to be too locked in to one specific way that manifestation needs to come about. So I'll tell you this, back when I quit acting, I would have never in a million years guessed that I'd become a hypnotherapist, right? Like a decade later. Like that was not on my bingo card at all. Okay. Never in this lifetime. You don't ever meet too many children who dream of becoming a hypnotherapist, right? And I certainly wasn't one of them. But look, by staying open, by tuning into the feeling of what I wanted out of a profession, which for me was curiosity and connection and freedom and autonomy and impact, right? Those feelings guided me to my dream job. Because when you are overly locked into a specific, what you're doing is you're closing off doors to opportunity. You're shutting down avenues that may have been even better than you could have imagined. Imagine if I was like, no hypnotherapy. Even though that was a match, I had missed my dream calling and job. And when we close off these doors, that's what your limiting beliefs are doing for you. I'll tell you, I once had a one-on-one hypnotherapy and coaching client who had a really strong belief that the only way he could increase his income in his chosen field was if he moved to a different state. Okay? He strongly felt that the reason he wasn't making the money he wanted to was because he lived in a particular location, so he thought, right? Even though there was a ton of evidence of plenty of people making really good money doing what he did in the current location he lived in, okay? The limiting belief he had was inherited by some comment that a friend made, and then he chose to believe it, right? We play hot potato with those beliefs. He held on to the belief, that hot potato, he was the one who got burned. And I'll tell you this, it was a convenient limiting belief, because instead of taking a closer look at what he was doing or taking responsibility for how he could improve or the skills he might be lacking but could develop, he could just essentially blame it on his location and then come up with excuses for why it wasn't even possible for him to move right now. And therefore, there's nothing he could do. He's stuck. Right? He could abdicate responsibility, which even though we don't think that feels very good, a lot of times it feels way better than taking responsibility. It's an easier route, right? But when he does that, he relinquished all his power and his control in his life. And he wasn't actually stuck. It was his beliefs that made him feel stuck. And so that's what we had to do, right? We had to unravel those beliefs one by one to show him the self-made prison he had put himself in. And it wasn't even based in fact. He was limiting the way he could manifest more money because he was instructing his brain to say that it could only come from this one particular avenue, and that avenue was located thousands of miles away. And that's when you start entrenching upon the universe's job. The universe decides the how, which means sometimes the universe decides the specifics. And you just have to tune into the feeling. Let the feeling guide you. It's just like playing an old game of Marco Polo that you might play in a swimming pool, right? You get closer and closer to it. You hone yourself to that feeling and you let the specifics grow and blossom and reveal themselves to you from there. Okay. One last recommendation I'm going to make about gaining clarity for your manifestation. I mentioned this right at the beginning. You might not know consciously the specifics of your manifestation, but your subconscious holds a lot more detail than your conscious mind does. You just have to let yourself go for a ride and learn it. And hypnotherapy is great for this. Okay, when I'm experiencing, like me personally, a hypnotherapy session, maybe I'm listening to a hypnotherapy audio, maybe I'm working one-on-one with another hypnotherapist, I make sure to come into that session with zero expectations. Even if I've done the session a million times before, okay? Like even when I listen to my ultimate manifestation hypnotherapy audio each day, that's that free audio that I've mentioned to you guys before. You are welcome to download it yourself if you choose. I listen to it every morning myself. It's how I manifested being on Big Brother, designing and building my dream home, creating my business. Like any manifestation I've had since 2022 onwards, it has come from this audio, okay? So when I listen to that audio, I go in each and every morning with zero expectations, which is, can be hard to do when you've listened to it hundreds of times, but still, it's a very vital practice because I know I'm not creating, I am not doing anything when I listen to the audio. It's being done to me. Now you're probably like so confused now. This is very different than what we talked about last episode about you being a creator versus a reactor, you being on the offense versus the defense. Remember that? Hypnotherapy, I would say, is the one exception because we're tuning into our subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is in charge of our automatic processes, the processes that we don't typically have control over unless we reprogram them at the source, which is the subconscious mind. And that's what we do in hypnotherapy. So we're accessing information that was not conscious to us. So we can't force it to be a certain way. Otherwise, that would be the conscious mind interjecting, right? So I oftentimes tell my clients before hypnosis, like doing hypnotherapy really feels more like watching a movie in your mind. So you pull up a movie on Netflix, you're watching it. You aren't deciding what happens next in that movie. You just simply sit back, eat some popcorn and watch it, right? It just reveals itself to you on the screen moment by moment by moment. And that's the sensation of what it feels like to do a hypnotherapy session. Even a heavy visualization audio like the Ultimate Manifestation Hypnotherapy audio that you can download. If you're interested in giving it a go to BrittanyHoops.com/audio and watch it like a movie. And here's another big tip. Don't second guess what comes up. Allow whatever comes up to pop up in your mind. Trust your subconscious mind. Let it speak to you. Let it do the talking, right? Your conscious mind is relaxed and offline. Your subconscious mind wants to speak to you. You don't have to do anything. And if nothing comes up for you, that's fine too. Okay? That just means you need to relax a little bit more. Let go a little bit more. Show your body and mind that it's safe to dream here. Okay? Maybe you have something like aphantasia and you can't visualize. Maybe you just feel sensations. Maybe you have deep inner knowings or an intuitive sort of sense of what's happening. It can come in any kind of form. You know how you experience dreams at night. Okay. Now, setting aside lucid dreaming, which is, when your conscious mind is still a little involved and is helping to direct where the dream goes, I would say 99% of the time, you're not lucid dreaming. You're just having a normal subconscious mind dream, and your subconscious mind takes over. It directs the dream, right? It just feels like you're watching a movie while you sleep. I had a dream last night that my nephew, who's a baby right now, he was older and he was holding a little baby. And that I just knew was his baby brother. And, it's interesting. I actually text my brother because I'm like, oh, guess what? Like, you're going to have another son someday. I was just kind of joking with him because my brother only has one kid right now, not two. And so this dream didn't make any sense. I didn't make it up. I didn't, make myself or force myself to imagine the scene. I just sort of watched it. Because once your subconscious mind knows that it's safe to fall asleep or that it's safe to become deeply relaxed like you do in hypnotherapy, that's when it can reveal to you these images, these sensations, these messages. Your intuition resides in your subconscious mind. Your imagination resides in your subconscious mind. And what's awesome is that and when I say you, I'm speaking about your conscious mind, because the you that we know is you is most often identified with that 5% of your mind, which is the conscious mind. That you doesn't have to do anything. And that's a line I often say in my hypnotherapy sessions. There's nothing you have to do or not do here but relax. That's it. That's the only thing that you, quote unquote you, have to concern yourself with. The subconscious mind will take over the rest. Relax, give up control, allow your subconscious mind to do the rest and to speak to you. And I love this. And even though I know what would I want my manifestation to be, I love listening to that Ultimate Manifestation Hypnotherapy audio and discovering new details each and every day that my manifestation teaches me. And the other day, it gave me a brand new idea on how to decorate my house. I was just like, I hadn't even thought of that before. Like, how cool. Like, it's kind of like when you get an idea in a dream. It's like a really fun, experience because it's something your conscious mind didn't create, but your subconscious mind did. And I personally there's this part in the audio. If you've done it before, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, download it and you'll know what I'm talking about. But I love this part where the manifested version of you speaks to you and gives you advice. Ooh, I just love that piece. The advice is always so spot on every single morning. Like, it's not anything that I was conscious of before the session, but I bring that advice with me through the rest of my day and even longer, It's always just the message I need that day. So if you have done the audio and if you've had trouble with anything I've just mentioned, that might then point that you would benefit from working one-on-one with a hypnotherapist instead. Because in that environment, someone can guide you during this process and help you troubleshoot it, okay? Like, there are so many techniques that a hypnotherapist can employ if the subconscious mind is resisting this kind of work, right? There's a lot to uncover there. So many ideas and specifics that your subconscious mind has picked up and stored for later that your conscious mind isn't even aware of yet. I mean, it's truly amazing. So I hope this episode provides a little bit more reassurance, a few more exercises for you to give a go, and a whole lot more clarity when it comes to your manifestations and what they're going to be for you. So give these exercises a go. Let me know how it goes. And just so you know, there's also way more advanced hypnotherapy techniques that I do employ with my one-on-one clients that can bring even more clarity to what you want moving forward. So I have a whole sessions that are designed just to help you clarify things, to jumpstart that process. Of course, when you pair that with coaching, which is a great conscious mind tool to get really clear on what you should do next, I mean, they both complement each other so well. So if you're interested in that, go to BrittanyHoops.com/private or just check out the link in the show notes and you'll find more details about my one-on-one hypnotherapy and coaching programs there. Now, I have one last thing. I know this episode's getting long, but I have one last thing that I want to announce to you guys and share with you. I haven't shared anything about this yet, so I'm really excited to hear what you think. I am in the process of a really cool new project that I think you're going to love. I am creating what I'm calling the Manifested Me Vault. Ooh, the vault. I picture these big like golden doors opening up and there being like light that goes, ah. We're opening the vault, y'all. It's going to be a comprehensive online streaming library of manifestation specific hypnotherapy audios. So take, for example, like let's just pretend today's episode, right? I mentioned there's a lot of techniques that can help you uncover more specifics about your manifestation through hypnotherapy. Well, imagine if there was a hypnotherapy audio that you could stream along with 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 other audios. The library will continue to grow over time that can help you gain that clarity on the specifics. Like what if there was something that I could just be like, hey, everything I'm talking about here, go find it in the vault. It's here. So some audios that I'll create will pair perfectly with the podcast episode topics, while others are just going to be topics that I see come up a lot in one-on-one sessions that I think would be valuable to you. Other audios may be topics that you send in a request and I make one and add one based on what's going to best help you. There'll be all different types of audios for you to choose from. And you'll be able to subscribe to the vault and receive access to stream any of the hypnotherapy audios on demand. And what kind of makes this library so unique and special is that it's not just like just hypnotherapy audios. They're all manifestation specific. I don't really know. I think maybe I've heard of one other library that's all manifestation audio specific in hypnosis, but there's not really many like this. And that's what I'm really excited. Usually you'll find like a hypnosis app or something like that. They'll have like one manifestation audio and you're like, darn. This one is all going to be related to manifestation. Every single audio will help you make your goals a reality. So I kind of feel like I've come full circle here. I don't know if you've been here since the OG kind of days. Right when I came back from Big Brother at the end of 2022, I launched a group hypnotherapy subscription on my Instagram account. And that was so much fun. You guys really loved it. We had hundreds of people in that group. And until one day I had to shut it down because Instagram glitched and wouldn't let me upload any more audios to it. It just like reached capacity. I don't think anyone had used the subscription as much as I had. And so I had to shut it down and it was so sad. And you all loved it and you found so much value from it. And so that was a really sad day. So I am so excited to now be able to offer a sustainable solution built on my very own platform that can handle long form audio. In fact, there'll be highly produced audio. There'll be calming music in the background, very clear audio, and you can stream these sessions anytime. And you don't even have to be live in the group in order to benefit from it, which is another perk. So I am so excited for this. I'm working on it now. I'll let you know once it's launched. It's going to be very accessible, impactful, and a great addition and resource to your manifestation journey, especially for those of you that maybe aren't quite ready to jump into working one-on-one just yet. It's a nice solution. So until the Manifested Me Vault is launched here in the next couple months, I highly urge you to go download my ultimate manifestation hypnotherapy audio as kind of a little taste test, right? A little teaser of the types of audios that will be included in the vault. So if you like that audio, you are going to be sure to like all of the many other options for you to stream and experience in the Manifested Me Vault. So head over to my Instagram, DM me your biggest takeaway from today's episode, and I'll personally share a little sample from the Manifested Me Vault, which is my ultimate manifestation hypnotherapy audio. Or or you can find the link in the show notes, okay? If there are any specific manifestations or limiting beliefs or mental blocks or topics that you would love to see covered as an audio in the vault, let me know. I'm in the middle of creating these audios right now. I want to create the ones that are going to be most helpful for you. And I'm currently in the process of deciding what topics that I'm going to make audios for, at least for the initial launch audios that will be in the vault. Of course, knowing that I'll continually add new audios once the vault's been open. So very excited about that. Can't wait to share that with you. And I'll catch you in the next episode.
I don't know.